Welcome back to the channel. This is DKOG73, and tonight I'm so excited. I've been working on this mod video for the last 5 days. Here's the deal. I wanted to make the most user-friendly, simple to use, easy to follow, 5-step process and how to mod your Arcade1up and turn it into a retro gaming beast. Before we get started on the mod video, I want to thank you for tuning in.
Sending you back to the future.
Welcome to the jungle.
Going for some extra points here. 120K, haven't died yet, having a pretty good game. Woo! There you go. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right, welcome back. So this is step 1. We're gonna remove the control panel, the buttons, the joystick, and we're gonna remove the back panel. It's really, really simple. So step 1, remove the control panel, the buttons, the joystick, and the back panel. Here we go, let's do this. And the way it's built, it's very stable. Probably the most stable Arcade1up that I've ever built. Also, one of the things you'll notice that I use washers so that I don't crack the plexiglass. So let's go ahead and pull this up just like this. And underneath, we're gonna go ahead and unhook it. Just like that, we've removed the control panel that easy. The next part of the removal process is gonna be to remove this and all the buttons and joysticks. It's super easy, so we'll do that in just a minute. All right, we've removed the control panel. Yeah, it's time to take off the back. Super easy. If you have a cordless drill, it makes it go much faster. Let's remove the back panel. We're gonna go and put this right here. Now, you can see we have the inside of the Arcade1up. We're not gonna remove anything yet. Remember, we still need to take out the buttons and the joystick from the original control panel. Here you can see the Arcade1up board. You can see the power that goes in, and also this is the speaker wire right here. This essentially goes up in the speakers that I talked about earlier. So here we go. Let's get started on the last step of step 1, and that is removing the buttons and the joystick from the control panel. This is the very last part of step 1. That is removing the buttons and the joystick from the control panel. The first thing you need to do is remove the ball top. The next thing you want to do is remove your plex. Keep that nice. Put that right there. Top is super clean. What we're going to do now is we're going to flip it on its side. And I'm going to remove all these screws. And I'm going to use my cordless drill. If you have one, I recommend using it because it's just so much faster. All right, so that's all the screws. I'm gonna remove the top, and you can see the inside of an Arcade1up control panel. So, disclaimer, I don't use the off and on switch at all. I don't use the volume switch. I program this all in the 16-1, and the off and on, it's just one switch on the back, just like in the old days in the arcade when you put the power switch. You can wire up the on and off switch, and there's other videos on YouTube that'll show you how to do that, but again, I'm keeping this super simple. Some people are gonna be like, no, don't do that, right? Boom, done. No disrespect to Arcade1up, I'm a huge fan of their product. I think it's done a lot for the retro community, but you can see here, it's just not the same as, you know, like a Suzo HAPP or a Sandloss. So let's go ahead and remove this. So you can see here, I've unscrewed the joystick, but it's still on there really tight. You know what I mean? It's not going anywhere, so I'm gonna have to pop it. I just have to take the board and go like this, just like that. Pop it on the other side. You can see the glue right there. They glue these like crazy. So we've got 3 buttons that we need to remove, and these are really easy to remove. You just push in the tabs, push them forward. Not at all as difficult as the Pandora's box buttons. These are really easy. Here's a Arcade1up button. Right? Here's the Suzo HAPP button. And when I put the switches in, they're gonna sound even better. This is super mushy. But, I mean, what are you gonna do? $300 to have an arcade in your house, that's a deal. We're just gonna take this Arcade1up and just make it so much better. I know someone's like, no, don't cut the wires, don't do it, you can save them. It's all good. The time it takes for me to put some buttons and joysticks on OfferUp for $20 is more time than $20 is worth. That being the case, I see a lot of people putting their, you know, all their OEM Arcade1up parts on OfferUp. If you can sell all the old stuff and make a couple of bucks, more power to you. Absolutely. Just make it that much faster. Again, there's going to be screws everywhere. I'm going to make sure I remove the screws from the table so I don't scratch anything. So in the future, if I want to go ahead and set up an on and off switch, I can, but I'm not. But again, I'm just going to go ahead and keep these in place. That is the first step of the process. That easy, it's that simple. So that's step one. This is step two. It's super easy actually. We're gonna remove the power cable to the Arcade1up. We're actually gonna be using this for the LED controller board. This is what will actually power up the LED controller board. So we'll put that right here. And this is our speaker wire, which we're gonna go ahead and put this off to the side. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove that's a small screw. There's only 2 screws, so it's pretty straightforward. You have to be really careful. You don't want to pull the cables out of the connector, otherwise it's gonna be a rough night for you. So I'm just gonna take my time on this. There's one of the cables. Just like that. And I've got one more cable. I'm being extra careful. So I'm gonna go in just like that. And that cable's been removed. So that's an Arcade1up Pac Man board. What I'm gonna do is set this aside. I'll put this on OfferUp for 30 or 40 bucks and someone will be happy to get it and it'll make the mod that much less. And now you'll see we have our video signal going in and we have our power and we have our ground. So that right there is step 2, remove the Arcade1up board. And now we're gonna move on to step 3, installing the LCD board and power supply. So now we're on to step 3. We're gonna be installing the LCD board as well as installing the power supply. So first up is the LCD board. As you can see, there's not enough line to take this all the way down or to take it over. Same with your video. You don't want to put an LED board straight on metal. I'm actually going to place this right here using 30-pound tape, so I'll do that now. I typically cut the strips about this big right here, just like that. And this is 30-pound Gorilla double-sided sticky tape. So you can see here, I'm essentially going to put one right here, just like that. Push it in real good, just like this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Super easy, just like that. We're gonna go ahead and place this right here. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. And that's, again, 30-pound tape, so that's pretty solid. It's not going anywhere. So that's the first step of step 3. Now what we're going to do is we're going to connect it. And it's really, really easy to connect. You see there's a red cable right there. Okay? You also see a red cable right there. So what we're going to do very carefully, because you don't want to bend the pins. And I think that's it right there. Just want to take your time and work it on there, because you don't want to break this connector. And make sure you get it on solid, just like that. All right, there you go. Now for the power, again, your red cable is going to go to the left, and it's going to go right here, right in this little spot right there. And that's super easy. So that is your controller board. That is absolutely connected properly. Now we're gonna mount it on the back right here with some double-sided sticky tape. And then we're gonna mount our controller board so you can change brightness and contrast and things like that. On the back side of the controller board, I'm gonna put 3 strips, and I typically cut them about that long. Let's see if I cut that long. It's almost perfect. Perfect. What we're gonna do now is the middle one first. Just like that. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to make sure that we protect the bottom of the board. There we go. Just like that. Super easy, right? All right. Get it on there nice and good. There we go. And I'm gonna put that right there. Just like that. And again, that is 30-pound double-sided sticky tape. I kind of went overboard, but hey, a couple more bucks, you get 30 pounds versus like 15, so there you go. Your controller board is now installed. And here you can see the LCD LED controller board along with its controller to adjust brightness, contrast. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is install our power strip. This is the Belkin power strip. This has our on and off right here. So we're going to set it just like this. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some sticky tape on the bottom side, just like that. Super easy. And I'm gonna cut the first strip. Just like this. Super easy. Just like that. Now, instead of having to install a power switch, you don't have to. You have a built-in power switch right there. Anytime you're dealing with power, you want to make sure everything's powered off. This is our Arcade power supply. It receives its power from the Belkin power strip, which then plugs into the wall. The power supply receives its power from these 3 cables: green, white, and black. Okay, makes sense? Pretty straightforward. The JAMMA harness, as you can see here, has like a bazillion color-coded cables. You really only need to focus on this power loom right here, which has a green cable, which is not needed. This connector here, which is obviously not needed. Really left to focus with the red, the black, and the yellow. The black's easy, that's ground. The red goes into +5, and the yellow goes into your +12. It's that simple, it's that straightforward. I'm going to take some of the double-sided sticky tape and place it under this foot, as well as under this foot, and then later on, when I finish up all the cable management, I'm gonna go ahead and screw it down. So we have completed steps 1, 2, and 3. Here you see down below, we've installed the power supply as well as the Belkin power strip. We now have steps 4 and 5. On steps 4, we're gonna install the PCB Arcade 16-in-1 board, as well as the joystick and buttons. We will finish up with all the cable management and we'll do a quick test play. All right, this is step 4. We're going to install the PCB board. We're going to install the joystick and all the buttons. So we're going to start with this PCB board. What we're going to do is we're going to place some feet on the board like this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to mount the PCB board right here, just like this. And then we'll connect the JAMMA. So this is our 60-in-1. And as you can see, I've mounted the feet. and we're going to install it right here just like this. Typically what I like to do is drill a pilot hole and then I will center it later. So you can see I've got a little drill bit here. I'm just a little tiny hole. And that's it, just like that. Now we're going to screw it in. And because we only have a 1/2 inch on the side of this Arcade1up cabinet, I'm gonna be very careful to make sure I do not strip the wood. So I'm gonna screw this guy in with just a regular screwdriver. And then you don't have to go crazy on this. You can just put it in, get it decently snug. 3/4 inch screw will do the trick. Just like that. Now let's do the other holes. So as you can see, we have the PCB board mounted. This is our 16-in-1 arcade board. And I'm gonna screw in the final leg right there. And again, I'm using a screwdriver so I can make sure and do this hand tight. I do not want to strip the wood. There we go. All right, we have our Arcade 16-in-1 installed. Super stable there. We've installed our LED controller board. We've installed our arcade power supply as well as our Belkin power switch. Now we're gonna connect audio and video, but first we need to connect our JAMMA harness. So one of the things you'll notice on this JAMMA harness is that up here, this is the power right here. Down here, this is what connects to all of your controls. So essentially, what you're going to do is you're gonna plug it in just like this. This is your power area on the JAMMA, and this is where all the controls reside. We're getting very close, super excited. All right, so our JAMMA is connected in. Now we need to set up our audio. If you remember that audio cable that I picked up, it connects right here into this LED controller board. So essentially, that is your output to your speakers. This is your speaker wire here. We're simply gonna plug this in, just like that. And now, we're gonna plug in our VGA cable. We're gonna plug that in to our arcade, which is right here. If you've ever plugged in an old school monitor, you'll remember these VGA cables. Okay, and here you're gonna plug in your video, just like that. And we're very close. The only thing we need to do on step 4 is install the control panel with the new joystick and the new buttons with the awesome cherry switches. We're gonna be connecting those buttons and those joysticks to all these cables, but fear not, we don't need to look at all these cables. I'm gonna color code everything for you and make it super easy. We're gonna get started on installing the Suzo HAPP joystick and the buttons, and we'll do that coming up right now. All right, let's complete assembling our new awesome control panel. We're gonna install a Suzo HAPP joystick with some Suzo HAPP buttons along with the cherry switches. And after we complete this, we will connect everything up and we're pretty much done. So there's a little trick to setting up your joystick, and it involves double-sided sticky tape. Place the joystick here. What I do is I put a little bit of tape here, and what that allows me to do is kind of move the joystick and get it centered perfectly. And then when I'm drilling in the screws, the joystick doesn't move at all. It's extremely nice and snug. So let's get started. We've got this guy right here, and we're gonna cut this in half. Just like that. We're gonna put one there. Just like that. Put one on the other side. Just like that. There's one strip. And there's two strips. We want to try to align this the best we can through here on the back side. And it's not quite straight. See how you can kind of move it like that? Let's see how close that is. That is very well centered. Just like that. So now I'm going to set this down and press it in real good. All right, perfect. All right, we have our joystick centered. I have a 3/4 inch wood screw and I have my Ryobi drill. We're gonna drill a very small pilot hole, about 1/8 of an inch. And I'm gonna do that now. And the idea is not to drill super far. We just wanna make sure we don't strip the wood when we're screwing these in. So we have our pilot holes drilled. Now we're gonna hand tighten these. Okay, pretty straightforward. We don't need to over tighten on the first round. Just like that. And if you hear cracking, you're getting near the end of your wood's tolerance for a strip. Okay, the last screw. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do a 1/4 turn. Okay, that's good. Be very careful, take your time. You get one shot at this. If you strip one of the corners over time, your control panel will fail. There we go, just like that. Now, we get to do the fun part, and that is putting the buttons and the switches, and we'll finish up, we'll put the stick in last. Once you have your buttons in, you have these little caps. So our buttons are in, just like that. And you can see the other side, just like that. And with the Suzo HAPP kit that I purchased from Tournamenter, you get a 1-player and a 2-player Suzo HAPP button. Put it in just like that. This, and just to get started. Like I said, the buttons and the switch and the cherry switches are super easy to do. There we go. We have the base of our joystick mounted. We have our 3 action buttons right here, button 1, button 2, and button 3. Here we have player 1 start and player 2 start. We're very close to finishing. Now we're going to install the joystick, which is super easy. We're going to install the Suzo HAPP joystick. So this is the actual top of the joystick right here. And we have some important pieces that we need. And I will show you that right here. So we're definitely going to need this right here. Okay. We're gonna need this. We're gonna need this. And we're gonna need that little guy right there. This is really, really straightforward what we're gonna do. Now, one of the things I have noticed over the years, every once in a while, this gate right here, it's really important that there's no little tiny little plastic right here. Every once in a while there'll be a little bit of plastic and you'll feel it, but this one looks really good. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is place this just like that. Super easy. The next thing we're going is you're just gonna put this in just like that, okay? And then what we're gonna do, just like that. And now with the joystick, we can set the control panel down. It makes it much easier. The last part of this control panel install is locking that joystick in place. How do I do that? With this little guy. And I definitely recommend a tool, something like this, or needle nose pliers, something like that. So the first thing we need to do is you need to put this in there just like that, and you're gonna push down with one hand like that. And then this guy is gonna go in like this, but again, this is why you're gonna want a tool like this or needle nose pliers. What you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to squeeze it on just like that. And this is light years better than the Arcade1up joysticks. All right. Last but not least, we need to put the micro switches in, and I've got 5 of them right here. These are really, really easy to put in, and they're really, really easy to connect. So there's one. There are 3 connectors. So this right here, when you press the button down, this is what gets executed right there. This is where the ground goes, and this is where the matching color for the corresponding button goes right there. Super easy. You always remember if this goes on top, you always start right here like this. On the bottom, snap it in, just like that. Super easy. All right, last one. And this control panel has been rebuilt. So we've completed our control panel build. This is our Suzo HAPP joystick. We have our Suzo HAPP buttons installed with switches, 1 player and 2 player. Now we're just ready to connect everything up. We are in the final countdown. We are at the very end of this project. We are simply going to connect this joystick and these buttons together on this control panel. What you'll notice is from the JAMMA Harness loom, there are 3 main looms. This is the 1 player loom, and you can tell that because it has our ground cables right here. This is the 2nd player loom. We're actually only going to need 1 of these, and I specific did not bring it over yet because it has the exact same color, and that is the 2 player start, which is actually this brown cable right here. So I'm going to do that very last. This loom right here is not needed at all. I will be essentially bundling it up, and I'll Velcro it, and I'll just drop it in the cabinet. It's pretty straightforward. We've got a loom right here. Snip this little guy. Just be very careful because this is daisy chain, and if you snip one of these, you break the entire chain. Just like that. And I'll show you how we daisy chain this across the buttons in the joystick. This is our 1 player loom, and it's really, 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 really simple. If I'm pressing right, I'm actually affecting that switch right there. That is green. Now I will put a diagram in the video for everyone, just like this. So there's 1. So again, when I go right, what I'm doing is I'm affecting that switch right there. Left is yellow, and that's easy because it's the opposite side. There's a yellow and an orange. So you really want to make sure that you use yellow, which is right here. So let's go ahead and connect this in, which is the opposite side, which is right here, just like that. Super easy. Up is red. So if I'm pressing up, I'm affecting this switch right here, which is down. And you can always pause and rewind the video if you need to. Okay. Now we only have one left, so process of elimination. Down is going to be orange, right here. And we only have one switch left, which is right here. So again, your color cables coming from your JAMMA harness go on this second prong, if you will, right here. And the ones up top that have an L shape, that's where you're going to daisy chain the ground through all the buttons, and I'll show you that. Let's look at our number one button, which is right here. And that is blue. Let's look at our loom. And you can see we have purple, we have blue, and there's our blue right there. So I'm gonna pull this out right here. Just like that. Very, very, very straightforward. We have our brown cable. This is our player one start. And we're gonna place that. And I'm gonna finish everything up. I've wired up the control panel. Now what we need to do is utilize this ground daisy chain. Start right here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And you know what? We need to connect the 2-player start, which is right here. Again, I said I would save that to the very end. So what I'm gonna do right now is pull this through right here. This is our 2-player. This actually comes from the second loom. Just like that. Daisy chain, ground cable. And we're gonna connect these in, just like that. And everything has been connected and grounded. We now have a fully functional control panel. We removed all the hardware. We added Suzo HAPP buttons and joysticks, the cherry switches. We centered our joystick, made it look super, super clean. It's solid, it's on there. It's nice and centered. We installed our switches. We installed our buttons. We know that up is red and down is orange, left is yellow, right is green. Button 1 is the blue cable, button 2 is the purple cable, and button 3 right here, this is your gray cable. Player 1 start is brown, player 2 start is brown from the second loom, and made sure that we grounded everything properly. So we were ready to test. I'm super excited. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's go ahead and power this up. So far, so good. Essentially, it runs its system initialization where it loads all the games. How cool is that? That is the coolest arcade ever. It's a 60-in-1 in an Arcade1up, and it plays flawless. I can't wait to show you some gameplay. I'm just excited everything fired up, and we'll do some gameplay in just a bit. Super fired up. Our Arcade1up is firing up with our 60-in-1 board, and now it's time to enter the test menu. There's a couple of really important things you want to check. So first and foremost, when you want to access the test menu, on your Arcade 60-in-1 PCB, on your arcade board, you want to locate the 4 dip switches. I'm going to provide a screenshot with instructions. You want to locate dip switch number 4. You want to turn it to on, and then you want to power on your arcade, and you will be presented with a test menu. Let's move forward to the next step. So you can see here it says S2 next. That refers to button 2. In our case, button 2 is a blue button. So I'm going to go ahead and hit button 2. Here it's asking us if we want to go ahead and clear our high scores. So we want to hit the start button, player 1 start, and the red button, which is S1 or button 1. And you can see that the high scores have been cleared. Now, on the back of your arcade, on the back of your Arcade 60-in-1 PCB, there are 4 dip switches. Dip switch number 3, when you set that to on, it will enable your Arcade 60-in-1 to save your high scores, even when you turn off your arcade, which is really cool. Let's go to the next screen. All right, this is your system dip switch setup menu. It's really, really important that we turn free play on. So you can see here, demo music on, yes, great. And we have game demo sound, yes, perfect. This is free play. Right now it's set to no. If we set it to yes, we don't need to insert any quarters. If you want to install a coin door, you definitely want to have this set to no. That way, when you plunk quarters in and you hear that magical sound of a quarter hitting the coin tray, it'll go ahead and give you a credit so you can play your favorite game. In our case, I don't have a coin door installed. I want to set free play to yes. So I'm going to hit the red button, and that sets free play to yes. I like to have the demo music on. I like to have the game demo sounds on. Here you can see that the cabinet is upright. And maybe in the future, who knows, maybe I'll install a trackball and go out there on the internet and find a really cool custom control panel that is already all set up for a trackball. So we'll see. Let's go to the next menu. Now here you can see each game, and I'm not going to go through all of them on the video, but each game has the ability to adjust difficulty, lives, etc. I can set Miss Pac Man to have 3 lives or 5 lives. I like to keep everything as authentic as possible, so I'm going to choose 3 lives. Okay, and then over here you can see extra life none. I'm going to change that to 10,000, just like in the arcade. So speed normal, I can speed it up, just like in the arcade when you would play Miss Pac Man or Pac Man, essentially the sped up versions. Donkey Kong 3 lives, extra life at 7K. Donkey Kong Jr. same thing. So I'm going to skip through a bunch of these. Lots of great games here. There we go. So here we can adjust the volume. The way we have it set up, the volume is being controlled by our LCD LED control panel. So even if we change this, it's not going to really change anything because all of our volume is going through that controller board. As you can see here, if I hit start, nothing changes. Then next. And you can see here we have our input-output test, which is really cool, right? Up, down. And we have button 1, button 2, and button 3. So everything's working perfect. So that is the dip switch setup menu. Again, to access that menu, you're going to want to change the dip switch on the back of the Arcade 60-in-1. It's dip switch number 4 to on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off the arcade. I'm going to go behind the arcade and I'm going to switch that dip switch setting 4 back to off. So it'll boot up just like normal. So I've went ahead and disabled dip switch 4 on the back of the 60-in-1 arcade PCB. I've turned the arcade back on and you can see it's going through its system initialization. It's essentially loading all of our games. Super excited because you know what, this arcade is done. I mean, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna clean up a ton of the cabling. So as you can see, we have cables everywhere, right? We're gonna manage all of this. We're done, we're ready to go, we're ready to have some fun. Our arcade is fired up and we have it set to free play, which you can see right there. So to insert a coin, you're simply gonna hit 1 player. Now you have a coin in the arcade. And of course, we're gonna play some Donkey Kong. Just like that. And it plays flawless. We are using the speakers that came with the Arcade1up. And you know what? Let's get a couple barrels real quick, just with the hammer. Oh, this sounds perfect. There's no lag at all. This is a JAMMA arcade board, there's no lag. It just plays amazing. Here it is. Having a pretty good game. We're still here. We're hanging out. And I've asked Cameron to be the camera guy because you never know when a great Donkey Kong game is going to hit. And so far, it's going pretty well. I'm really digging this new Arcade1up with the 60-in-1. Yeah, this is a 60-in-1. There's no save states or anything like that. It's just you play it out, just like you would in the arcade. 120K, haven't died yet. Having a pretty good game. It's pretty late. We call this Midnight Donkey Kong. It's far past midnight. All right, let's see if I can do this twice in a row.
That was the one. Oh man, I gotta wait. I gotta really focus. Another one I missed. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, dude.
With that, let's turn this arcade around. Let's clean up some of those cables. As you can see, I've been working on the cables. Don't look too bad, they're not perfect, but you know what? This arcade's gonna play great. As you can see, the back panel's been modified. It fits snugly over our power strip. And I wanna thank everybody again for tuning in. And with that, I'll see you in the game. Oh my God!